Hello, and welcome to the Xenophed Project. In this episode, we're going to discuss the 5 rules of non-compliance, written by Xenophed.
There are, of course, those who do not want us to speak.
Just let me think.
In fact, even now, orders are being shouted into telephones, and men with guns will soon be on their way.
It's Chancellor Sutler.
Damn it!
Why? Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country, isn't there?
I wouldn't turn you in, not now. I know I wouldn't.
You can do it without it, Racine. You can. I know you can.
Then what? It can't go on forever. You know it can't.
We could leave and live in the superstructure. You only have one more shift left, don't you? We could be gone before the next series started.
In society, the human race finds itself in a position where if you try to be peaceable and turn your head, all that will happen is death. And I don't know about you guys, but I am far from giving up. So, in an effort of self-preservation, I have come up with 5 steps and goals listed separately to help put some perspective on things. But first, let us recap where we are in the big picture of life as I see it. It will not be a complete list of events of standing in the world, but simply a justification of mine and hopefully your perspective of when, what, and where. Years ago, we were all happy-go-lucky in life, but all has not been well on planet Earth. Little did we know that a group had laid the groundwork for the devil's timeline on Earth as written in the good book. However, this is not predetermined by man or God. As I said, what man starts, God will finish. But by Lucifer, they would take little steps to get there, as written in the book of Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike in the year 1871, where he laid out the plan for the devil to take control of the world and enslaved people in it. To quote him, "We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, and we shall provoke a great cataclysm which in all of its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origins of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the people will be forced to defend themselves against the world minority of the world revolutionaries, and will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude of disillusioned with Christianity, whose spirits will be from that moment without direction and leadership, and anxious for an idea, but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in public view, a manifestation which will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time." Now, not that I subscribe or believe in that statement, but they do. He goes on to talk about how all this will come about, but further says the following: "The First World War must be brought in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the Tsar in Russia and making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergence caused by the Azure agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken their religion. The second war must be fomented by taking advantage of the difference between the fascist and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel and Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would then be restrained and held in check until the time we would need for the final social cataclysm. We are in part 3 of the saga, and it will not turn out good for no one on this planet if we do not take a stand and defend ourselves. I have come up with 5 simple rules, or points. Never turn your back on God. It will not work out well for anyone who does. That would be number 1. Number 2, never subscribe to their evil plans or goals. Vaccines, cryptocurrency, gun control, defunding the police and law enforcement. Number 3, never surrender to them without a clear standing as to where their goal would place you. Example, if they say, you need some help understanding what is true, run, fight, defend yourself as your life depends on it. It does. Learn not to be seen or heard. Think of Anne Franks of the Nazi death who all oppose him. We are there, with complete spying on everyone in the world and censorship of all communications. It will only get worse from here. The argument of when to use force, I look at it from this perspective. If someone tries to harm someone precious to me, I will fight to the death to save them, even if it means I draw my last breath. So be it. To Jesus, my soul, I command thee. Now, I'm not saying to people, I'm not saying to go off on people, but we must protect our family and friends. We must never bow to their level of life. Above all, we must keep our faith, for God has our backs. I will warn everyone, the first thing they will starve us out. They will shut off the internet and power so those things go out. There will be no doctors or help. If you dial 911, oh, wait, no phones. It will be after that they will march in the UN, Chinese Communist forces, to control us and remove our weapons. They will offer you foods and funds to take their shot. But if you do, it will kill you. And that's just the start for the long-term effects of their perspective. Let's go back and see what part 3 they said it was. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. A war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical and moral and spiritual and economical exhaustion. We are so far in debt in the world and in this country that it would be impossible to pay this money back. If they took everything, it would not be enough to pay it back. They're already claiming all the farmland as retribution for our loans from them. But they'll take care of that. They'll send us to re-education camps to get rid of our religion. And what makes you, you? They only want servants. I have doubts that any adult will walk out of one of them places. Remember, their plan was written 150 years ago, and they have no intentions of changing it. As for us, we have faith, free will, and that special thing they cannot grasp. a goal and a purpose that involves God and our free will. Thank you.
It's time.
I'm ready.
Look, all they want is one little piece of information. Just give them something, anything.
Thank you. But I'd rather die behind the chemical sheds.